How many times have you said yes when every cell in your body was screaming no? How many versions of yourself have already died before they were allowed to be born? Think with me for a moment. How many times today did you swallow words that wanted to be spoken? How many times did you smile when you wanted to cry? Or stayed silent when your soul was begging to scream? How many times did you choose to be likable instead of being real? If you're watching this video, it's because something inside you is tired. Tired of performing. Tired of being good. Tired of carrying the weight of always being the understanding one, the flexible one, the one who adapts, the one who fixes everything, the one who never causes trouble. There is a silent betrayal happening inside you. Every time you choose to be loved instead of being real, a part of your soul fractures. And the most terrifying part? You've learned to call this betrayal kindness. You wake up in the morning, and you're already checking your phone, not to see what you want, but to see what the world needs from you. Your first questions aren't, "How do I feel?" or "What is my soul asking for today?" They're, "Who needs me? What do I need to fix? How can I be useful?" This woman you've become, always available, always pleasant, always saying, "It's okay," when it's really not okay. She wasn't born this way. She was carefully constructed, brick by brick, compliment by compliment, approval by approval. Jung, the great Swiss psychologist, taught us about something called the persona, the social mask we build to be accepted in the world. And for us women, this mask has a very specific name: the good girl. The one who doesn't yell, doesn't disturb, doesn't demand, doesn't fight, the one who smiles, even with a broken heart. The one who says thank you when she should say enough. But here's the truth no one told you. Jung said that the persona is what we are not in reality. It's the role we play for the world, but it imprisons us when we confuse the role with our essence. And you, my dear, have been performing for so long that you've forgotten who you really are beneath all this performative goodness. The good girl is not you. She's a character you created to survive, to be accepted, to not be abandoned, to not be rejected. She was your protection when being authentic wasn't safe, but now she has become your prison. You feel it, don't you? This sensation of living a life that's not quite yours? Of being constantly exhausted without understanding why? Of having everything that should make you happy, but feeling a void you can't explain? It's because you're betraying your own soul every single day. Every yes you give against your will. Every boundary you don't set. Every time you erase yourself to keep the peace. Every time you swallow your anger to be seen as mature. Every time you ignore your intuition so as not to disappoint anyone. Your psyche is screaming. Your body is speaking through symptoms you medicate instead of listening to. Your vital energy is being drained to maintain a facade you don't even recognize as yours anymore. And the most painful part? You were taught to call this self-destruction virtue. Love, feminine maturity. A strong woman endures everything, they said. A wise woman knows how to yield, they repeated. A valuable woman is not confrontational, they whispered in your ear since you were little. Lies, all lies. A strong woman knows her limits and honors them. A wise woman knows when to yield and when to resist. A valuable woman doesn't avoid conflicts. She navigates them with integrity. But no one taught you that. They taught you that your value was in your capacity to be convenient. They taught you that love meant erasure. They taught you that being feminine was being small, silent, always available. In this video, you're going to understand why this kindness has such a high price, how it installed itself in you, and what happens when you finally dare to shed it. I'm not going to offer you a miracle technique. I'm not going to give you another self-care checklist. I'm going to show you the way back to yourself. Because on the other side of the good girl exists a whole woman. A woman who feels deeply without apologizing. A woman who loves fiercely without erasing herself. A woman who says no without explanations. A woman who occupies her space in the world without asking permission. This woman is not selfish. She is complete. She's not bad. She's real. She's not confrontational. She's integrated. And she's waiting for you on the other side of your courage, on the other side of your willingness to disappoint people who only love you when you're small, on the other side of your courage to finally stop lying to yourself. Jung taught us that there is no liberation without the courage to look at our own shadow. And your shadow, my dear, is not your flaws. Your shadow is everything you denied in yourself to be accepted. Your legitimate anger, your healthy boundaries, your non-negotiable desires, your undomesticated voice. The journey we're going to take together is not about becoming a different person. It's about becoming who you've always been, underneath all the layers of conditioning and external approval. Take a deep breath. Your real life is about to begin. Now that you've felt that recognition, that uncomfortable stirring of truth moving inside you, let's dig deeper. Because the good girl didn't just appear overnight. She was carefully cultivated, watered with praise, and fertilized with fear. And understanding how she took root in your psyche is the first step towards setting yourself free. Close your eyes for a moment and travel back with me in time. You're 7 years old, maybe 8. You're upset about something. Maybe your brother took your toy. Maybe you didn't get the dessert you wanted. Maybe someone was unfair to you. Your little body is electric with emotion. Your voice is rising. Your face is flushed with the pure, unfiltered truth of what you're feeling. And then you hear it. Good girls don't act like that. Ladies don't raise their voices. You're so much prettier when you smile. Stop being dramatic. If you keep acting like this, nobody will want to play with you. In that moment, your developing psyche makes a devastating calculation. My authentic emotions are dangerous. My real reactions make me unlovable. If I want to belong, if I want to be safe, I need to be different than I am. And so begins the construction of your persona, your good girl mask. Jung explained that we develop personas as children because we need them for psychological survival. The persona isn't inherently evil. It's protective. But somewhere along the way, you forgot it was just a mask. You started believing you were the mask. Think about the messages that shaped you, not just the obvious ones, but the subtle, insidious ones that seeped into your consciousness like water through cracks. You learned that your value was tied to your agreeableness, that your worth was measured by how little trouble you caused, that your femininity was defined by how small and accommodating you could be. She's such a good girl, they said, and your little heart swelled with pride. But what they really meant was, she's such a convenient girl. She doesn't ask for much. She doesn't complain. She makes our lives easier. You absorbed the cultural mythology around feminine goodness like a sponge. The stories of women who suffered in silence and were celebrated for it. The martyred mothers. The self-sacrificing wives. The daughters who put everyone else's needs first and were rewarded with the ultimate prize, approval. You learned that women who expressed anger were bitches. Women who had boundaries were selfish. Women who pursued their own dreams were bad mothers or career-obsessed. Women who took up space were attention-seeking. Women who spoke their truth were difficult. And so you began the long, exhausting project of becoming acceptable. You started monitoring yourself constantly. Your tone, your expressions, your reactions, your needs. You developed an internal surveillance system that never sleeps, always asking, am I being good enough? Am I making anyone uncomfortable? Am I too much? Jung's brilliance was recognizing that this persona formation happens in all of us. But for women, it's particularly devastating because the good girl persona requires us to betray our own instincts systematically. Your intuition says something is wrong here, but your persona says, don't make waves. Your body says, I need rest, but your persona says, everyone is counting on me. Your heart says, this doesn't feel right, but your persona says, stop being so sensitive. Let me paint you a picture of how this shows up in your daily life now. You're in a meeting at work, and someone takes credit for your idea. Your authentic response would be to speak up, to claim your contribution. But your good girl kicks in with a flood of thoughts. Maybe I'm remembering wrong. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't want to cause drama. I'll just work harder next time. You're in a relationship where you consistently give more than you receive. Your soul is keeping score, feeling the imbalance, aching from the inequity. But your good girl whispers, love means sacrifice. Good partners don't keep score. I'm being petty. I should just be grateful. You're exhausted, running on fumes, your body begging for rest. But your good girl sees the dishes in the sink, the emails in your inbox, the people who need you, and she says, rest is lazy. Good women don't sit still when there's work to be done. Everyone else seems to manage fine. Do you see how insidious this is? Your persona has become an internal abuser, convincing you that your authentic needs and responses are wrong, excessive, selfish. She's like a sophisticated psychological virus that's learned to mimic your own voice, making you think her thoughts are your thoughts. The most heartbreaking part is how this persona has disconnected you from your own anger, perhaps the most vital emotion for a woman's psychological health. Your anger is your boundary system. It's your inner alarm that goes off when something is wrong, when you're being violated, when injustice is occurring. But you've been taught that feminine anger is ugly, unspiritual, unfeminine. So where does all that suppressed anger go? It doesn't disappear. Energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. Your unexpressed anger becomes depression. Anger turned inward. It becomes anxiety. The constant hypervigilance of monitoring whether you're being good enough. It becomes autoimmune conditions, your body literally attacking itself because it can't attack what's actually hurting you. If you're feeling tears right now, if you're feeling that painful recognition in your chest, if you're feeling angry at how perfectly this describes your life, good. That's not your brokenness talking. That's your authenticity trying to break through. That's your soul saying, finally, someone is telling the truth about what this has cost me. You are not weak for carrying this pattern. You are not foolish for falling into this trap. You are not alone in this struggle. You are part of a lineage of women who learned that survival meant smallness, that love meant self-erasure, that goodness meant silence. But you are also part of the generation that gets to break this cycle. We need to talk about the price, not the small inconveniences, not the occasional pang of guilt, but the real cost of staying the good girl, because the bill is coming due in your body, your mind, your relationships, your creativity, and in the quiet, sacred chambers of your soul. Jung taught that what we reject does not vanish. It descends. It becomes the shadow, an underworld of exiled truths, emotions, instincts, and powers. The good girl feeds this shadow daily. Every unspoken no, every swallowed boundary, every smile pasted over fury becomes another stone in a basement that is flooding. The shadow does not disappear. It ferments. It grows hungry. It demands to be fed. And when you starve it of honesty, it eats your life force instead. The first cost is the split itself. Your psyche cannot sustain a double life indefinitely, mask above, truth below. The energy you burn keeping the lid on is astronomical. Imagine holding a beach ball underwater all day. That is what you're doing to your anger, your desire, your hunger for space. You are exhausted, not because life is inherently too heavy, but because you're carrying it while pretending you're not. Your body knows. It keeps the score you refuse to keep. Years of hypervigilance have trained your nervous system to scan, appease, and adjust before you even register a feeling. Cortisol becomes your coffee, adrenaline your personality. You wake tired, crash at 3 p.m., revive with sugar or caffeine, and call it normal. It is not normal. It is survival masquerading as functioning. Unexpressed anger calcifies into tension, jaw tight, shoulders armored, pelvis braced. Headaches visit like unpaid debts. Sleep becomes shallow. Your cycle becomes irregular or brutal because a body at war with itself cannot flow. Autoimmune flares whisper the truth your mouth will not speak. If I cannot push back out there, my body will push back in here. The body shouts what the lips are forbidden to say. Then, there is the emotional climate. Depression often arrives like a gray fog. But beneath it, there is heat. Anger frozen because it was never allowed to move. Anxiety hums like an alarm you can't find to switch off. Not about one thing, but about everything. It is the sound of living out of alignment. Dissociation creeps in quietly. You are in the room, but not in your body. You are in the conversation, but not in your truth. Life happens around you, and you nod along, missing yourself in the very moments you're meant to inhabit. The void grows. You have the checklist, job, relationship, achievements, and yet you stare at the ceiling at night and wonder why it feels hollow. The answer is cruel in its simplicity. A life can look full and still be empty if it is filled with what others needed from you instead of what is true for you. Relationships bear the mark of this pattern. You train others to expect your self-abandonment, and they learn quickly. Takers find you like water finds the lowest ground. You become the emotional first responder, the fixer, the container for everyone else's storms. But where do you go to lay your head? Who sees you when you are not useful? Love becomes a transaction. Your care in exchange for their approval, and you cannot rest inside a bond that requires your disappearance to stay intact. The most insidious loneliness is the kind that lives in company. Surrounded, yet unseen. Praised, yet unknown. People love the mask. They applaud the function. They miss the woman. And every time you feel it, you tighten the mask another notch, as if perfection could solve isolation. It never does. Creativity and pleasure are casualties too. Your creative fire needs oxygen, honesty, risk, the willingness to be unliked. Starve it of truth, and it dwindles to embers. You pour your brilliance into managing impressions, choreographing harmony, preempting conflict. There's no flame left for art, for play, for wild ideas. Pleasure goes dormant because the body that is always braced cannot open. Libido wanes. Laughter feels rehearsed. Joy becomes relief. No one is upset with me today. That is not joy. That is a ceasefire. Your relationship with your body shifts from sacred home to project. You tweak, tone, restrict, and optimize her to be more acceptable instead of more alive. You ask, how do I look? Instead of, how do I feel? Intuition, the quiet, uncompromising voice of your inner elder, grows faint. She is not gone. You just turn the volume down because she keeps telling you truths that would require change. Your cyclical nature becomes an inconvenience to manage rather than a rhythm to honor. You push through when your body begs for stillness, then wonder why she stops trusting you. And then there is the cost that has no lab test, no diagnosis code, the spiritual bill. Jung called it the tragedy of the unlived life. You came with a blueprint, with gifts that are yours alone. But the good girl is risk-averse. She trims your vision to fit inside other people's comfort. Purpose withers under consensus. You feel a quiet panic. Time is moving, and I am not. You scroll, you busy yourself, you promise to get to it later. The ache remains. It is the echo of the life that wants you. When you seek solutions, the culture hands you 3 shiny traps. Be more confident, they say. But confidence in a mask is just better acting. You don't need to inflate the persona. You need the courage to unbuild it. Take more self-care, they say. A bath cannot heal a betrayal of self. Skin care is lovely. Soul care is necessary. Think positive, they say. But you cannot manifest your way out of a cage you refuse to admit you're in. Positivity without truth is spiritual bypass dressed in pastel. The way out is not performance, but integration. Not brighter lipstick on the mask, but bare skin in the sun. You will not be saved by being nicer, quieter, or stronger at pretending. You will be saved by telling the truth, first to yourself, then to the world, in ways that honor your safety and your dignity. And when you begin, the costs start to reverse. Energy returns where repression used to feed. Symptoms soften as honesty circulates. Relationships recalibrate. Some dissolve, others deepen. Creativity rekindles. Pleasure stretches like a waking cat. Intuition clears her throat and speaks again. The soul exhales. But how do you begin to dismantle a persona that has been your armor and your identity? How do you meet the shadow without being swallowed by it? How do you die to the good girl and rise as the whole woman? You've seen the cost. Now comes the turn. The moment you decide that staying loyal to your mask is more dangerous than being loyal to your truth. This is the threshold Jung called individuation, the process of becoming who you are, not who you were trained to be. For women, individuation asks for something radical and sacred, the death of the good girl and the birth of the whole woman. Not a wicked woman, not a careless woman, a complete woman, one who can hold tenderness and force, softness and boundary, grace and truth, all at once. Integration is the key. The shadow does not need exorcism, it needs welcome. Your anger is not a character flaw, it is data. It clarifies where your limits live and what your dignity requires. Your boundaries are not selfishness. They are the architecture of self-respect. Your desire is not indulgence. It is guidance, the compass of your aliveness. When these parts come home, you do not become less feminine. You become fully human. There will be grief. The good girl once protected you. She kept you safe when authenticity wasn't. Honoring that service is part of the right. But what kept you safe then cages you now. Jung reminded us, there is no birth of consciousness without pain. This is labor. You are crowning into your life. Picture the central metaphor, the golden armor. It gleams. It impresses. It deflects harm. It also suffocates. You cannot breathe deeply inside it. You cannot be touched. You cannot dance. Removing the armor is terrifying because your skin will feel everything: the wind, the gaze, the risk. But that is also how you feel the sun again. Presence over protection, vitality over approval, authenticity over applause. Now reframe what you were taught to despise. Sensitivity is not fragility. It's your truth radar. It catches reality before language forms. When you stop apologizing for it, you begin trusting yourself. Boundaries are not rejection. They are clarity. They say, "This is how love can reach me without harming me." Anger is not ugliness. It's your power, insisting on change where harm has been normalized. Desire is not greed. It's sacred direction. It points to what makes you alive, not just functional. What happens when you allow yourself to be real? You breathe deeper, literally. Your body drops the constant brace. Energy returns, not the frantic kind that comes from people-pleasing, but the steady current of alignment. Relationships shift. Some end, and it stings. But the ones that remain grow richer because they are rooted in truth, not performance. New connections arrive. People who do not require your erasure as proof of love. Your creativity rekindles. Ideas knock at your door again because you've stopped crowding the threshold with everyone else's needs. Pleasure wakes up, stretching like light across your skin. You remember how to savor. You remember that your body is not a project to improve. She is a home to inhabit. Intuition turns her volume back up. She's been speaking all along, but now you're listening. Even when it's inconvenient, even when it requires change. That is the quiet miracle. Life grows simpler, not because it becomes easy, but because you've stopped arguing with your knowing. And then there is peace, the paradoxical kind. Not the peace of avoiding conflict, but the peace of alignment. Inside matches outside. Words match values. Yes means yes, no means no. Integrity feels like rest. You will disappoint some people. That is not failure. That is proof you are no longer shape-shifting to fit into rooms that were never designed for your fullness. Approval was a currency that kept you small. Now your wealth is self-trust. So here is your permission slip, signed by the part of you that remembers. You have permission to take up space, to be seen, to be loud when necessary. You have permission to say no without a footnote or apology. You have permission to rest before you earn it, to receive without paying for it in self-betrayal. You have permission to change your mind as you grow. You have permission to want what you want and to stop arguing with your desire. This is not rebellion for its own sake. This is reclamation. You are gathering the exiled parts, calling them by their true names, and setting a place for them at your table. You are becoming internally undivided, and when a woman is no longer split against herself, she becomes a force that does not need to force. Gravity, not hustle. Presence, not performance. Will it be easy? No. Will it be worth it? With your first honest breath, you'll know. The world may not applaud this version of you, but your body will, your nights will, your art will, your future self will. And now, the most practical question emerges like a drumbeat. How do you begin? What is the first step that makes this real in the texture of your days, in your calendar, in your conversations, in your nervous system? You don't need another performance. You need a practice. A simple way to start telling yourself the truth and letting your nervous system trust you again. This week is not about dramatic change. It's about subtle, honest interruptions that begin to dismantle the good girl from the inside out. Let's start with the smallest, bravest thing: listening. The 3-breath pause. Before you say yes to any request, invitation, or expectation, pause for 3 slow breaths. On the first breath, feel your body, jaw, shoulders, belly. On the second, ask, what do I actually want? On the third, let the answer whisper up from your gut, even if you can't act on it yet. You don't need to perform a new you. You just need to hear you. This alone begins to rewire trust. Your body speaks, and you listen. Now, give the shadow a pen, not a muzzle. The Shadow Journal, 7 days. Each time you feel anger, dread, resentment, or the urge to say no, but don't, capture it. Keep it simple. Date and moment. What happened? What I felt, sensations and emotions. What I did. What I wish I had done. One sentence of unfiltered truth or rage. At week's end, read as a witness, not a judge. Circle patterns, people, places, times of day, phrases that silence you, body sensations that predict a boundary breach. Highlight verbs you keep betraying. Ask, rest, stop, leave, say no. Those verbs are the blueprint of your next boundaries. Choose one micro-boundary to practice. Low stakes, clear, compassionate. Script it in advance so your nervous system isn't improvising. Thanks for thinking of me. I'm not available. That doesn't work for me. I can do X, but not Y. Let me get back to you tomorrow. Say it once this week. Not because you need to be perfect, because you need proof that you can survive telling the truth. Tend your nervous system so your courage has a body to live in. Try one of these daily. Longer exhale breathing. In for 4, out for 6, for 2 minutes. Shake it out. 90 seconds of shaking arms, legs, jaw to discharge stress. Hand to heart ritual. 1 palm on chest, 1 on belly. And a quiet promise. I won't abandon you to be approved. Mark the transition with a small rite. Write a thank you letter to your good girl for how she kept you safe when being real wasn't safe. Name her gifts: diplomacy, awareness, care. Then, name her limits. Close with a blessing. You got me here. I'll take it from here. Tear it, burn it, or place it in a box. A death needs a ritual because a birth is coming. In your relationships, tell the smallest truth available. Not an explosion, an alignment. I've been overcommitting, and I'm practicing slower yeses. I want to be honest. I feel resentful when I agree to things I can't carry. I'm learning to say no sooner. I care about us, and that helps us. Now, the invitation to sisterhood. In the comments, tell me, what part of your good girl is asking for permission to die? And what truth have you swallowed for so long that you barely recognize it? Your courage is a mirror. Another woman needs to find her own face. Remember the real promise of this path. Your life does not begin when you finally become perfect. It begins the moment you stop pretending you need to be. When you choose humanity over performance, wholeness over approval, reality over image. Jung was right. There is no liberation without the courage to face your shadow and call her home. Your real life, your life, waits just beyond that courage, and she always has.